Acknowledging God and giving back are becoming more common in hip-hop than ever before. We got an exclusive first-hand look at how hip-hop superstar Fetty Wap is sharing the love with his own community.
God blessed me to be, a little fortunate now, so, I try to, especially the main thing I try to do is give back to Paterson.
Fetty Wap teamed up with a new Price Rite supermarket, the Gray Firm and RFG Productions, to give more than 1,000 Paterson families a very happy holiday weekend. He gave out $25 gift cards so they could make a nice Easter Sunday dinner, something he rarely had himself growing up.
To be able to live a different lifestyle, it kind of just really empowered me to try to help as many people as I could.
Hundreds of people waited online for hours, as much to be inspired by his success in defying the odds as to receive his generous gifts. What do you think about Fetty doing this for the community?
I think it's awesome. It's a good thing, that he's giving back, because a lot of the kids here love him. They look up to him, and by him coming back, he's showing that he cares also.
I got kids too, so to make people happy, that's what I'm all about. I try to do my best. You want to keep doing your thing, y'all?
The heart of hip-hop has never been bigger, more spiritual, and more outspoken about God.
Anything you guys want in the store is free, so grab whatever you guys want.
In God's plan, Drake gives away nearly $1 million to people in need. The song set a record for most streams of a single in a day, more than 18 million, and set off the God's Plan challenge.
All over social media, you could see fans literally tearing up, getting emotional, and also being inspired. The God's Plan challenge was basically to do good deeds.
His first album was called Doggy Style, and now some fans are crying holy hip-hop over Snoop Dogg's latest work, a new #1 gospel album called Bible of Love. Could Fetty have his own gospel album in the works? Anything is possible for this super talented artist. For now, he's content to help others and accept dinner invitations.
If I'm still continuous to be blessed, I'm going to always bless my city. And make sure they got them plates for me. I'm coming.
All right, you're coming. You're coming for Easter dinner.
Definitely, I'm coming. Fetty Wap's coming through. Yeah, baby.
While this spiritual trend is helping many people, is it here to stay? Let's find out what our panel has to say. Joining me for this episode of Street Soldiers, Oswin Benjamin. He's a hip hop artist. He performed on the BET Awards. Oswin, great to have you on Street Soldiers.
Thank you.
Also with us is Soumya Krishnamurthy. She's a music journalist. Soumya, great to have you.
Great to be here.
Thank you. Also with us is David Banner, a hip-hop artist. His latest project is The God Box, and his new single is Magnolia with CeeLo Green.
Thank you.
David, great to have you on.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
Let me ask you, is this God trend new?
No, I think, we've always been a spiritual people, especially with me being from the South. You go back to some of the most gangster rappers in the world. Scarface has always been praying and humble to God. I just think that what happens is that we're such a faddish culture. When someone who's humongous has an opportunity to do it, then people have a tendency to start focusing on it and looking at it. Like, as you start doing your research, I'm listening to it, you see that it's always been a part of our culture.
Right.
I just think that there's waves, and sometimes the wave is here and sometimes the wave is there, and I just think that it's something that people are uncovering now, and hopefully it can do some positive things in certain people's lives.
Soumya, is this a new trend, or has it gone to a new level?
I agree with David. I think it's all about waves, and I think when it comes to spirituality or beliefs, people have had them, right, since the beginning of time, and you see it all over music videos, the thank you notes. Back when people would have liner notes, it would usually be God would be the first person shouted out. I think now we're just seeing more high-profile artists do it. So someone like Drake obviously has the platform that when he does something like the God's Plan video and launches a challenge, it becomes this global phenomenon. Similarly, Kanye, Chance the Rapper, these are big names of people who've openly embraced spirituality and religion, but to David's point, I think a lot of people worship in their own ways, and I think we're just now seeing it in a more public manner, but by no means is it new.
It's been around for a long time, you're saying.
Absolutely.
Oswald, what about you? Tell us, a lot of your Instagram posts, you say God loves you to people reading it. What gave you the idea to do that?
Well, I grew up in that whole church-filled Christian background home, and even when I started rapping, my mother had an issue with it because of certain words I would use in the message. But one thing that she always told me, though, like, if this is what you're gonna do, you got to understand that you're speaking to a hopeless people, and the whole point of our beliefs is to bring hope. And sometimes people don't hear little things, or they don't get those little reminders like, yo, God loves you, there's someone out there, whatever you want to call them. It's bigger than what's going on, and he cares about you, I care about you. That's just what we were taught to believe. So I was always taught to, all right, cool, we could talk about our surroundings and how terrible it is, but what's the solution and where's the hope? So that, for me, that's what it's always been. Like, I could bring you through this dark tunnel, but I gotta show you the light that's at the end of it.
And basically letting people know that they're not alone. Whatever they're going through, or whatever kind of struggles, that type of thing, they're not alone. David, your latest project is called God Box. Can you explain that for us?
Well, I really don't like to explain it because I believe that God works with different people in different ways. And like, we put out a message, and I had to learn this the hard way. Like, we're very selfish, and we want people to understand things the way that we meant it to be understood. But I think that we're all conduits, and one message may mean something to somebody else in a time of need. But like, if you tell people this was my meaning, and they was like, well, wow, that's not what I received, then you break their spirits. But I have a different twist on it, and I hope I don't hurt too many people's feelings. But my album, The God Box, wasn't really to bring people to religion. It was really to tell them that God is a little bit closer. And I personally feel like, especially America, uses religion to keep the people subdued and bound. And, you know, as a descendant of Africans, when they brung Africans here, they took everything of culture away. They took the language, they took their understanding of their God, their spirituality, everything about them. But for some reason, their religion still remained. So for me, if everything that was powerful to you was taken away from you, why was that still allowed? If you look in our communities, you know, you got the liquor stores, you got, you know, all of these different things, and on every corner there's a church. When in actuality, there's one God, and if there was really one God, then we can all sort of praise together. So for me, I think it's very important for people not to prescribe or subscribe to a religion and really find that spiritual being, whatever that may be, in self. And that's what my album was about. Not as much about, like, when people heard the God Box, they was like, oh, David Banner a preacher now.
You're right. Not exactly. No, David Banner has not become a preacher.
But I think it's very important for us to ask these types of questions, because in so many cases, people have a tendency of looking at rappers or looking at young black men and trying to pick out the things that they do. But I think in a lot of cases, you have those same spirits in every subsection of culture, even religion. So I'm usually the one to say, okay, guys, let's hold up. Let's not just fall into this bag without really understanding and researching what you're getting into. And I remember when I was at Universal, they said, David Banner, you'll probably be 2 times bigger if you would open your life up to the world. And I was like, I mean, the world buys my music. They don't own my life.
Somia, is this just marketing? I mean, because Drake starts out the video for God's Plan with the budget for this music video was 900 whatever thousands of dollars, like nearly $1 million. And then it's just shots of him going around giving away stacks of cash to people who definitely need it and will benefit from it. But is that just marketing?
There's definitely a marketing aspect and a promotional aspect to it. But, you know, it kind of goes back to this debate of should you do charity out in the open or should you do it quietly? And different people kind of have different thoughts about it. I personally feel that artists sell so much to us. Their music, what they're wearing, waist trainers, fit tee, like everything that you can think of. So why not sell good deeds, right? So if you're going to use your platform, why not use it for something positive, and to spread a message that, again, is furthering the culture. So is it promotional? 100%, but that's not necessarily a bad thing.
Right, because it is getting the idea. David, what about this concept too? Like, there's an expectation, I think, and there are, as Soumya said, there's a lot of artists who I know personally have done things in the community. They didn't want any publicity. They didn't want people to know about it. They didn't post about it. They just, built a youth center, or they did certain things, to help people who are facing hard times. But in terms of what's expected of artists now, do you think that's changing? Now we expect artists to kind of, like we do other celebrities, you kind of have to have a charity, you kind of have to have something to, show that you're giving back.
That's just, because like I was always taught as a Southerner, like men especially, men don't talk about their good deeds. Good deeds are what you're supposed to do, and we've always been that way. But it seems like in a lot of cases there's so much negative just gook thrown at us all the time that you sort of have to put out the good things that you're doing just to level out all the negativity, you know? Like, that's something that I struggle with, all the time. Like, we're constant. There was a time in my career where I was doing more than the money that I was bringing in during the time Katrina was happening. Like, I stopped my whole career and just did Katrina. That's all I did for a year. And I believe that you have to take it by situation. Each person is different. Some people do it, and I personally feel this way. If kids need books, and you have a guy who's fronting and just doing it so he can get the publicity, who cares? The kids are
going to have the books,
right? The kids has the
book. Or the computers or whatever.
Right. That's the only thing that I really care about. But I think what ends up happening is that the life of an entertainer, just about everything is a go now. With me, that's one of the things that I've always fought against. And I remember when I was at Universal, they said, David Banner, you'd probably be 2 times bigger if you would open your life up to the world. And I was like, the world buys my music. They don't own my life. So I always kept my life separate. Who I'm dating, who my mother is, my spiritual preferences. Because I even think in a lot of cases, people want to know what you are so they can put you in their comfort box. I don't let anybody know what I believe in. I believe that that's personal. I remember Malcolm said that. He said, I believe that black people would go a whole lot further if they would keep their religion in the closet. You know what I'm saying? If it's really about the death of young, innocent black men, women, and children, or just innocent men, women, and children, period, whatever your preference is, then it should be about that. Not whether you're Christian, Muslim, or indifferent, whatever it may end up being. So I just think sometimes we have to take it situation by situation and remember that people are human.
Also social media, right? Like you were mentioning that, the label kind of pressuring you, but now with social media, artists, especially newer artists, are told, like, you need to share your life. People want transparency, the fans want it, brands want it, and it really kind of gives like this 360 view of who you are. So it's also harder now. So, right, like before, maybe you could have that personal life. Now, let's say we see you at a church, someone may take a picture of you, all of a sudden it's all over the internet. You might 100%. Not have even posted it. So we're in a weird age of kind of oversharing just as a culture.
Yeah, but what ends up happening with that is it ends up equaling out, because you may see me at a church, but then you may see me meditating with my Buddhist friends. So I think what happens is there's just such an overload of information that people end up taking the subsections of the things that's most important to them and taking
disregarding the rest, and not necessarily buying the album or streaming the album or whatever. Aswan, what about for you as an artist, as an up and coming artist? Do you feel that pressure to put things out there that aren't related to work, or?
Nah, not at all. For me, it's different. I've always, especially the music, I've always prided my music off of transparency, and that's off of, and I honestly, what started that for me was that 8 Mile movie. At the end, that last battle was just like, yo, Papa Doc really couldn't say nothing to him because he put his whole self out there. So for me, it's just like, I've always been that type of person. It's like, yo, you don't have to ask me nothing because I'm an open book. So can't nothing get misconstrued or lost in translation.
In terms of all of the references to God, do you think any of them are fake?
Nah, I don't.
People are just doing it because it makes them sound.
I don't think that's up to us to decide. I feel like
That's up to God to decide.
I feel like people go through things and they find what they're looking for on their journey. Some of it may be a chance to capitalize. For some of them, it may be a genuine thing. I feel like the whole situation with Snoop, that Book of Love, I think that's a genuine thing. You know what I mean? But that's my interpretation. Somebody else could look at it.
And some of it is more contradictory than others. Like, I remember I've interviewed artists during Ramadan, so they're fasting because, you know, they call themselves Muslims, but the interview's in a strip club, or they're also smoking weed while the interview's happening. So they're fasting, but partaking in other things. And again, you know, at the end of the day, who are we to judge? Like, I think everyone lives their life by their own beliefs, and it's not really for us to sit here and wag our finger like you're not living up to a certain expectation, because, you know, people in glass houses, right?
Exactly.
And then we also have to be careful because we don't know who their gods are. Maybe money is their god. Maybe success is their god. So as much as they may be playing us or playing whoever it may end up being, you know, and making us feel like it's the spiritual god, some people's God are the exact things that they're searching for.
But in terms of the spirituality aspect of it, because I look at you look at hip hop, and I look at hip hop, and hip hop was the cutting edge of, you know, showing what was really going on in inner city communities when mainstream news was not covering it. Hip hop was on the cutting edge of that. It's now become the most popular form of music in the world. And then in terms of the spirituality, is it possible that this kind of idea of just kind of not being haters, not being mean to people, looking out for other people, that this is just a new idea that hip hop's on the cutting edge of this big change we're going through as a society?
I mean,
David Banner?
David Banner. I mean, one part is, though, it's also just cultural, right? So, like, even within, like, millennials, Gen Z, you're seeing more people looking at spirituality, self-help. Like, you know, I remember a time, like, the self-help section. Like, you'd be so embarrassed to be seen there. But now people have vision boards, and they, you know, like to manifest. And it's kind of, you know, a lot of that is just part of, like, youth culture. And it could just be the type of world we live in. When you see tragedy and death and disease, you want to find some sort of meaning to it. And it doesn't matter your age. Even a young person may call to whatever their higher power or, you know, some sort of a life force, just to give their life some meaning.
And feel empowered, too.
Sure.
And feel like there's some power.
And I also, and this is something that I lecture about all the time, and I also think, you know, people always criticize the youth, but I think what ends up happening is, too, I think we have a generation of kids who are tired of our grandparents' lives and our parents' lives, and they really want to search for something new, whatever it may end up being. And I think that's a level, because similar to what she was saying, a lot of us who have been, you know, speaking contrary to just the everyday dogmatic views that America had pushed down our throats, when we introduce another level of whether it was Christianity or Buddhism or whatever it may end up being, you know, we were looked at sideways, you know what I'm saying?
Sure.
And I think these kids are truly just looking for the truth. And I think it gives people who have always been trying to push a different type of spirituality through, I think now these kids give us an opportunity to actually be at the forefront now.
I want to thank all of you for being with us for this episode of Street Soldiers. Oswin Benjamin, thank you so much. Great to have you on.
Thank you.
Somia Krishnamurthy, great to have you with us. David Banner, wonderful to have you here with us.
Thank
you all very, very much. Remember, use your mind. It's your best weapon. I hope it's your only weapon. I'm Lisa Evers. Let's push for peace.